Hello, Cambridge Isanti Schools. This is Tim Trubenbach coming to you from the district office. I'm the director of the teaching and learning. You may notice that it's slightly a little bit different right now. In an effort to increase our communications with all of you, I am attempting some different methods of communicating, and that is using a video casting system along with a Prezi presentation. And today I'm going to talk to you about the concepts of Marzano's frameworks as well as the eye observation software. And it's going to be a brief presentation, but I know that later you'll be getting more in-depth with your individual buildings and coaches and principals. So let's get started. It is the Teaching and Learning Update, and it's a focus on instructional growth through Marzano's Art and Science Teaching Framework. Now, it's important to note that there is a difference between Marzano's Art and Science of Teaching Framework and eye observation. Eye observation is actually a software that allows for efficiency in monitoring and providing feedback and providing resources on Marzano's Art and Science of Teaching Framework. So there is a difference there. The framework versus the eye observation. Eye observation is the actual software, which is an implementation, understanding all itself, but the framework is actually the nuts and bolts of quality instruction, and it's broken up into pieces. So I did want to make that clarification before we proceed. Now, why are we doing this? Well, there's three main reasons. One is obviously the recent legislative teacher evaluation components that require us to have something in place by 2014 and 2015 school year. Now, that is a few years out, but something this in-depth and something this important does need a few years of implementation time. So we are working on kind of phasing this in as we proceed and progress, but that is the one main thrust in which is really pushing us toward a new evaluation system. But also, the concept that it's really important that schools are consistent in noticing and assessing their classroom practices, because what is good in one school in terms of instruction should also be good in another school. And I think out of fairness for teachers of the large group as well as for the students at Cambridge Isanti is that there's some consistency in terms of our practices of our evaluation and providing feedback to teachers. And also our continued priority on continued growth as instructors to strengthen student learning. I know I've been here now, this is my 7th year, and I have always been impressed on how important it is for all of us to continuously be growing in our expertise and always becoming a little bit better from year to year. Now, if we proceed with the following goal statement, let me read that to you. An expectation that all teachers can increase their expertise from year to year, which produces gains in student achievement from year to year with a powerful cumulative effect. Now, what this says is that we're providing focused feedback from year to year. Now, whether that be through an evaluation system, whether that be through professional development or PLCs, the difference here, if the goal is for every year, we're able to provide a system that's efficient, that's accurate, and that's dead-on research-based, we're able to do that from year to year to provide that feedback to continually to increase our expertise. That is the ultimate goal, because in the end we will have a powerful cumulative effect on the student achievement, and that's the nuts and bolts of what our goal is in proceeding this way. Now, you've seen this slide before. Several of you actually have it in your handbook and have maybe had an opportunity to glance at it. If not, here it is. The intent is for you not to necessarily read it, because it is fairly overwhelming, but in the same respects, what this is a list of what they refer to as 41 elements, and they're divided up into different categories here. But what this is are slices of lessons, different strategies and how you approach your instruction, and this is all research-based, again, off of Marzano's frameworks. We're working hard to better understand these elements right now because, as you'll see as we get into a little bit more, that each of these has their own intricacies that we need to make sure that we are intentional in how we proceed and how we plan. Now, to be intentional, we need to make sure that we are aware. Therefore, that's why we're all in this process together in terms of learning what each of these elements are about and how to proceed. Because I think the biggest thing is that we're growing together on this. Now, I would ask you, what if every teacher is engaged in a self-assessment of their classroom practice? What if teachers' individual professional development plan was aligned to the teacher evaluation system to help teachers measurably improve the instructional practice score? In other words, what if we could measure what is quality instruction? Now that would lead us that would force us and lead us into more deliberate practice. Now that would involve things like setting personal goals, be more focused practice, focused feedback, observing and discussing teaching, and monitoring our progress, again through a system that is an efficient system that would allow immediate feedback as well as resources to help provide us. Now what else does that involve? It's a system. It's a rinse and repeat, if you will. It's focused feedback, focused practice, focused feedback, focused practice, and that's all toward improved instruction. Now, just to kind of review some of the general rollout plan for Cambridge Isani, as many of you know, earlier over this past summer, we did get trained in administration, coaches, and some teacher representatives, as well as mentors and new teachers have a few steps ahead of all the rest of you, because during the new teacher workshop, as well as they've been working hand in hand with coaches for the past couple months, understanding the eye observation software, as well as understanding the frameworks. Now, if you look at the second to the last bullet, where it refers to as all teachers are given an in-depth introductory training, that's what today is about. And really what has been decided and how we're moving forward is much of what the new teachers have already gone through is also being reviewed, and much of that lesson plan, if you will, is being reviewed with the rest of you in terms of introducing the software, in terms of and the frameworks. So you'll be experiencing some of the same things. But the biggest thing that I'd like to focus on here is all of us working on familiarizing ourselves with Marzano's framework and the eye observation software. And we're going to have an emphasis, because out of 41 that becomes overwhelming, but we want to make sure that there's an emphasis here. So therefore we've broken it down that there is a district goal, there are building goals that have been determined by your principal and leadership teams, and oftentimes those are initiatives that have already in progress, but the building goals directly relate to some of these elements. And then also later today, many of you are going to be asked to create professional growth plans, and you'll be establishing an individual goal. Now I'm going to focus a little bit more on the Cambridge Isani district goal. Now this in lesson segment involving routine events, this is what we refer to as 1.1. Now that is design question 1, element 1. If you take a look at this arrow right here where it says providing clear learning goals and scales, that is the one that the district has determined as being, or teaching and learning has determined as being the district goal. Now I do need to point this out to you. We are in the beginning stages. We are just exploring and understanding what does that mean in terms of a clear learning goal and scale. Now the reasons, you might ask yourself, why element 1.1? Some of you maybe recognize this from some of Marzano's work, but if you take a look, and I like to use the term bang for buck, which of these actual strategies has the highest probability of having the largest impact? Now this graph actually shows the percentile gain for specific instructional strategies, and if you notice, the larger, the 34% percentile gain and the 25th percentile gain, notice setting goals and objectives as well as scoring scales. So these essentially are the two highest. So bang for buck as a district, if we do these two things well, research says that we will have the best chance, probability of receiving and seeing the highest gains in terms of student achievement. Let's go in depth with these just a little bit more. I want to talk about what learning goals actually are, because essentially that element is broken up into two parts. One is the learning goal and one is the scale. So let's talk about the learning goals. And again, these overarching units, they're unit goals, they're overarching. Now many of you who have been here for a number of years remember comments and remember trainings on things like essential questions, I can statements, and those type of things. And now when we start to do more chunking of those I can statements, those are some learning goals, as well as those in the secondary that have been focusing on unit organizer. Really, of those two parts of this element, the learning goals and the scales, I would say as a district, in my opinion anyway, we're a little bit further on the learning goals side of things, because we're familiar with clear statements of knowledge or information. And the difference here is that we want to make sure that we consistently in every lesson have these things posted and able to read by the students. Perhaps written in student-friendly language. I know that the I can statement movement has not only been in the elementary, but it's working its way up through some of the middle schools as well, so that it's easily understood and that perhaps thus those goals can be readily understood so that those students own those. And then also reference throughout the lessons. Now, what should those students be able to explain? They should be able to explain that learning goal, not the lesson, the activity or the assignment, but rather the goal. And how are these current activities relate, and how the current activities relate to the learning goal. Now, like I said, of those two parts of this element, I'm assuming you're going to be much more familiar with the learning goals. Now, the scales is a bit of a new adventure, and I'm going to breeze through this because actually many of you are going to get a little bit more in-depth on the scales today, especially I believe in the K through 5. They're going to be working on some specific things. But scales, and you'll notice the little guy here, right here with a 1, 2, 3, 4. Scales should be related to the learning goal, posted and able to be read by students, written in student-friendly language, and referenced throughout the lessons. Students should be able to explain the meaning of the levels of performance articulated in the scale or rubric. Let's take a look at a generic template. Now, you would have to insert your specific content, but for the most part, this is just a generic template for you to use as a guide, and all coaches and principals have received a copy of this, so they actually have this as a generic template. But if you're taking a look here in terms of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, the 3 right here, this is what we would call the proficiency. This is the area in which the student's responses demonstrate no major errors or omissions regarding any of the information and or the processes. Now, as you work up or down, obviously you'll notice a difference in actually what you're seeing from your students. From if you move down, the student's response indicate major errors or omissions regarding the more complex ideas and processes. However, they do not indicate major errors or omissions relative to the simpler details and processes. Now, if you go on the 4 side, in addition to exhibiting level 3 performance, anything above the 3 is in addition to, obviously. The students' responses demonstrate in-depth inferences and applications that go beyond what was taught in class. Oftentimes, this maybe has to do with, as we move up that knowledge taxonomy, and maybe even over into that relevance to bring in some quadrant D information. This level 4 type learning is moving us into that higher rigor and relevance type understanding, and that's obviously where we want to be. Now, I went through really quick basically some foundational information, but we felt that it was important for you all to hear from one source and from one central location. And hopefully I didn't take too much of your time here, but I did want to just make a quick comment here for a minute or two in regards to my experiences so far in this new role. I have had, it's really offered me an opportunity to visit a lot of different sites, and I certainly hope I've had an opportunity to say hi to you, pop in, maybe visit you during prep, shake some hands, and just to introduce myself, because I do not know all of your names, but I look forward to actually being able to do that. But without a doubt, I have been nothing but impressed with all of the things that have been going on throughout the district. And I just want to take this opportunity as a professional, and more importantly as a parent that actually sends my own children to the schools in which you teach. I just want to say thank you, because you all are working very hard and we all appreciate everything that you do. So please keep up the good work, and I just want to hold up one quick thing here, and hopefully this will come through. But this is what I'm trying to give to you all. With that information, Trubenbach out.